Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day to day lives. Let's start with the video. I met my fiancé, Angelina, when we were in college. She was the quiet, shy, and timid girl in the small friend group that I had formed during the initial days of college. Being an extrovert during the middle of the college year, I kind of lost contact with these people while Angelina stayed in contact with them a little longer before the friend group split due to reasons unknown. At that time, being young, I didn't bother to keep in contact with these people because, as you guys know, people come and go during college days. Well, I guess this friend group split kind of affected my girlfriend a lot, and understandably so, because she was an introvert to begin with, so it all just made sense. Angelina had also told me that she always had a problem making friends, and so it all clicked to me, and I tried being with Angelina as much as I could, and that is how we got as close as we are. Or so I thought. One thing that also needs to be added is that Angelina had quite a few mental health issues. She was suffering with anxiety and depression stemming from her unstable childhood. Her dad was a drunk, and her mom had left them for her affair partner right after she gave birth to her. So Angelina has had a few abandonment issues, which, when we met, she said she had under control because she was receiving therapy for it, and it honestly looked like it too. But often she would have a few outbursts of sadness and anger, sometimes together or sometimes separately. Even through this, I tried to be as understanding as I possibly could towards her because, as I said, I loved her and she felt like she was truly the one for me. So we finished college, clinging together throughout it all, and honestly, the first red flag I find myself is the fact that I got out of college with almost no friends. I mean, as an extreme extrovert, the people I had surrounded myself with weren't the people I knew would stick around for long. Well, regardless, I just chalk it up to all of this as me just maturing up, and I still vividly remember Angelina telling me that I was just growing older and having a tight knit group of people. I was convinced by it. So after college, Angelina and I both landed a job, and honestly, I was so proud of her because with her GPA, I really thought she'd have a hard time finding a job. Well, we start working, and immediately after a couple of months, I proposed to her, and she happily accepts my proposal. I still remember that day because I was so happy. I almost cried happy tears, but little did I know these happy tears would soon turn into tears of bitter sorrow. You see, it had been about 6 months since we got engaged, and Angelina very unexpectedly lost her job. This was a red flag in itself because she used to work in Reynolds' company, who was a mutual friend of ours. As soon as Angelina got fired, Reynolds cut all and every contact with us possible. Even after I tried contacting him to let him know that everything was cool between us, Angelina refused to tell me what happened that got her fired and kind of spiraled into a depression. So I immediately got her a therapist and let her take as much time off as possible. Well, my job had just gotten extremely hectic. I had to now travel outside the country and within at least 4 times a month, so I was barely available. Now, Angelina and I lived separately because we were under the process of finding a separate house where the two of us could live together, and the process had just kind of halted after she was fired. So I told Angelina that she could crash at my house when I was out on one of these trips if she wanted to, and she happily took me up on that offer. Once again, she was happy, and so I was happy, kissing her goodbye before leaving on my first trip where Angelina would be living in my house. So I leave and contact Angelina until the very last night of the trip. Everything seems okay, as it possibly can, and so I don't worry that much when she doesn't pick up my call the next morning, as I wanted to inform her to come pick me up at the airport when my flight lands. My worry begins the moment I reach the airport and she isn't there. I called her once, again, a couple of times, and got no response. So I decided to call in a cab and get home with my stomach full of worry. And man, this was the first time I ever wished I hadn't returned home because I got there to this view. My house completely scattered. all my things messed around with, and my safe broken into. I immediately started looking for Angelina, thinking about the worst happening to her because F the money. At that point, she is the most valuable. This is all until I stumble upon a note stuck to my fridge. I take it into my hands and start reading as my world starts shattering. I find myself standing there as I read in great detail about the woman who I consider to be the love of my life, talk about how she started an affair with someone from Reynolds' workplace, how they were too in love, and how she was leaving me for him with all the money in the safe. Hell, she even promised to return it back to me. I immediately began crying, but I knew I needed to contact the cops before anything, so that is what I did. The cops came over and investigated the scene. They took in my complaint and told me they would reach out to me. Until that time, I told everyone that we were mutual about the situation, and everyone was quite shocked. The thing that shocked me, however, was her parents' reaction. I mean, I've always known that they were pretty erratic people, but their reaction completely took me back. As I informed them about their daughter and how I had informed the cops, instead of being worried about their daughter, they berated me about me calling the cops because apparently, according to her stepmom and dad, this wasn't the first time she's done this, and calling the cops just would make it worse. I stood my ground on it, though, because I wasn't going to risk my house getting broken into for a woman who has probably had a history of running away and stealing, but still, out of curiosity, AITA. I received an update from the cops today telling me that they have found Angelina along with her alleged affair partner. Honestly, at that point, I was just curious to see who that person was and was shocked to find out that it was none other than Reynolds' married brother, who was in the same college as ours. Hell, this man was even in the same friend group as us at the point. Remember the friend group that fell apart? Exactly that one. Well, this news was a pretty huge deal for the gated community I lived in. I mean, with security as good as one in the area I live in, such cases are extremely rare, if any. So it made it to the local news with pictures and everything. Angelina is yet to say anything about the situation. According to the cops, she has been doing nothing but crying and telling the cops that she wants to talk to me, which honestly I have no interest in. Another person that has contacted me is Reynolds, telling me that he wants to sit down and have a chat. It feels like I can finally have some closure. We'll update you all once that happens. I met Reynolds today, and oh boy, everything started clicking and making sense all at once. It's like I felt a heartbreak all over again, and this time worse than the day I found out everything that happened. Apparently, the reason that the friend group broke up was because of the affair between Reynolds' brother and Angelina. The two had been going out together and caught multiple times, all the while being with their partners, and every time someone would tell them that they were going to tell me, Angelina would threaten to harm herself, which is what caused everyone to back off. This was the reason why she was fired from her job, too. Apparently, after years of not having an affair, they got back together once they found out they had to work together, and it didn't take long for Reynolds to find out and fire Angelina and his brother, but once again, he couldn't tell me because of the threat Angelina made to him. He apologized to me profusely and offered me his lawyer if I wanted to sue, which I gladly accepted. All this time, I was a bit dicey about wanting to sue Angelina because of her mental health, but after hearing all of this, I'm definitely going to. I posted a while ago on this subreddit. Not sure if anyone remembers, but I know I owe you guys this update after all that you guys have done for me. Well, to put it in short, Angelina and Reynolds' brother were found guilty for the theft and for breaking into my house. So they were sentenced to jail time. I got to talk to Angelina for one of the last times, and all she could say was that she loved me but lost her way because I had become too busy with work. My foot. Hell, I remember leaving a few of my trips in the middle to comfort her during one of her breakdowns, and she claims I am the one not giving her enough when she knows fully well that she was the one who drained me, both financially and mentally, as well as isolated me from the life I once had. But hey, what's done is done, I guess. I'm ready to start on a new chapter with new people and new experiences, knowing that this probably isn't going to be the last time I'm getting my trust broken. But as long as I have a community like this, I know I'm not that scared to face the situation. NTA. The parents are in with the daughter, which is why they're throwing such a hissy fit. Put your foot down and don't let their opinions distract you. NTA. Am I the only one who got suspicious vibes from the girlfriend from the beginning? I mean, the clinging and everything. She practically changed OP, it seems like. Little background. I was 10 at the time, and my cousins liked to pick on me for my weight. They'd purposely make me lots of food and then expect me to eat all of it. They'd also give me their leftovers. Soon I developed a bit of chub and I got heavily bullied for it. They even went as far as to whenever I was over their house, Auntie was never around, so they'd lock me in the room with a piece of bread and a tiny bag of chips to starve me for hours on end. But when Aunt was a few minutes away from home, they'd prepare me a big dinner to look good in front of Aunt Summer, 2008, IG. Many years later, I had just gotten my own place, mid 2021, straight out of college, and I'd never really have anyone over except friends and my siblings. I was having a family dinner, and my mother suggested I invited my cousins. No one found out about what they did to me, and I sort of retained the weight but lost a bit of it. No chub, but pretty thick still. I was off about the idea since all I had was bad memories. So I said no. My mom got pretty mad and said if my aunt was coming, so should my cousins, as they're her kids. I said no again, stating that I didn't want them there because they made me uncomfortable. My mom said that's fine, she gets it, and drops it. Day of the dinner came and I made an amazing banquet dinner for my family. First, my sisters came, then my two brothers, my mom and dad, uncles, gay marriage, TW, IG, although you guys should be supportive, and then my aunt, but slowly behind her, my cousins trailed. They seemed to know exactly how to make me angry, saying that we're starving and that in a sarcastic voice, I always knew how to eat, so I should be amazing at cooking. I reluctantly let them in, and they immediately and impolitely made themselves at home, left their shoes in the middle of the room, watching TV and not flushing the toilet. I was getting angry, but I wanted to be civil, so I just let it go. The last straw was when I was making chicken and a few steaks. As I was seasoning all of that, my cousins appeared behind me and said, "Oh, that just for you?" And I lost it. I started screaming at them and told them to get the hell out of my house. And they refused. They said they were here for dinner and that's what they were going to get. I said that they had no right to be in my house and make fun of me for my weight. And not only that, but for doing all of the things they did to me in the past. And if they don't get out now, I will make them leave. They finally left. But then my entire family started talking about it and telling me how much of an AH I am for making them leave. This hasn't stopped for a few days, and I'm starting to think they meant it in a joking manner. AITA for kicking them out? NTA, you should go even further. Make sure everyone knows you hate your cousins' guts, especially your cousins themselves. That will make sure you never see them again. NTA, I don't care if they were joking. You don't need them in your life. I will tell your family. Those people that you call my cousins are actually my bullies. They were incredibly cruel to me when we were children, and they still think that it was funny. I'm not a child anymore, and I can choose who I want in my life. I do not want them around me. I am not open to debating this decision. If you cannot respect this decision, then I will miss having you in my life. I will no longer allow them to abuse me for their enjoyment. I have three nephews. They were born in January 2020, November 2020, and February 2020. My sister is pregnant again and due in December. The succession of pregnancies so close together has taken its toll, and my sister is on bed rest. Besides using the washroom and going to medical appointments, my sister doesn't leave her bed. She is under the care of specialists. Me, my parents, and my brother-in-law's parents have been doing what we can to assist in looking after her and my nephews. The succession of pregnancies meant my sister had to leave her job. My brother-in-law works, but his job can't be done remotely, and with my sister on bed rest and three kids underage, 3 at home, they need help. They can't afford daycare for my 2 oldest nephews, and my youngest nephew is still too young yet. But their lives are in complete chaos and relying on us to keep things afloat. Me, my parents, and his parents chip in when we can. Even my grandparents and his grandparents have helped a little despite their ages. But the bulk of it is being done by me and my and his parents. I am happy to help if only to make things better for my nephews. I want to be a good aunt. They are just kids and this mess isn't their fault. I have even refrained from commenting until now because of how exhausted and floundering my sister and brother-in-law are. They don't need me to tell them how much of a mess this is. I said something to my sister only because I was tired of hearing her complain about her pregnancy and bed rest. I'm sure it's not a picnic to be dealing with a high-risk pregnancy, but this situation is of her and my brother-in-law's making. Me, my parents, and his parents all have full-time jobs, and we are rotating to ensure my sister and my nephews are cared for. I'm a paramedic, and I have nightmares of getting called to their address because she and the baby are in distress. It's a real possibility given how fragile her pregnancy is. My sister and brother-in-law are university educated, and where we live, they can access contraception and birth control at no cost. Doctors have repeatedly warned them about getting pregnant, so soon after my sister gave birth. There is no excuse for the mess they have created. I love my nephews more than anything, but my sister and brother-in-law have completely destroyed their lives for the foreseeable future. When I told my sister I don't need to hear her complaining because she got herself into this situation, she got really angry. My brother-in-law chided me the next day for what I said as well. It may seem harsh, but I am already exhausted from my job and giving up my days off to help them. I do it for my nephews, and I never commented throughout all the pregnancies before now. They are both angry at me, though. NTA, but I think it might be time for you to step back from helping them so much because this isn't healthy for you and your relationship with them. What are they planning to do once the baby arrives? Will you still be expected to help? Can they look into government assistance? NTA, you're allowed to snap. You've been pushed past your breaking point by your own empathy and selflessness. If it were me, I'd eat bonbons and take a nap. No one else's kid is my problem. You've sacrificed a lot for your nephews and sister. She should quit whining and get her big girl bra out of her purse. Your brother-in-law couldn't even manage his penis snot for 2 years straight. That's your sister's problem, not yours. This won't stop. By the way, in 2023, she'll be pregnant again. It's some sick fetish for a lot of males. You may need to wash your hands of this to preserve your mental health. NTA, you, your parents, and brother-in-law's parents have gone above and beyond to help your sister and brother-in-law. Caregiver burnout is a real thing, and it sounds like you all need a break. As the doctors have said, your sister and brother-in-law need to start being responsible adults and use some sort of contraception. It is not responsible to be having children that closely in succession, especially if you can't care for them yourself. While your sister has every right to express her frustration about being stuck in bed all day, every day, she doesn't have the right to tell you that you can't express your own frustration. I really hope that she and your brother-in-law are doing things to express their gratitude for all that you and parents are doing to help them and not taking your caregiving for granted, as they are